Hey everyone. I just watched Jawbreaker's fact it's a video he had to upload twice um, on YouTube, basically because I don't know, maybe copyright reasons, but he uploaded this about 50 minutes ago, and time right now is about, well, I'm not going to say what the time is, but he uploaded this about 50 minutes ago. um, but he was talking, and it's basically a response to his Gone with the Fur Theater video, and he talked about how because the topic of the Gone with the Fur theater video was both Roxanne and Mona, and he talked about how Roxanne and Mona, along with some other female stars or co-stars or guest stars in the Goofy universe, if you will, the Goof Troop verse, seem to be only there for one-shot appearances, only seem to be there to advance the plot, to be sort of a supporting, co-starring character for the series. That's it. They're gone after it's all said and done. So I can kind of understand where he's coming from, because when you look at a character like, let's say, Roxanne, I remember watching not Goof Troop, but Goofy Movie not once but twice in theaters. And I always thought to myself that it'd be so great that if Disney wanted to, and I thought they were going to, honestly, make new episodes of Goof Troop following a Goofy Movie based in the same continuity, because thus you connect all three. It's like you connect both worlds or both continuities as one. Because let's be honest, Goofy Movie is really just Goof Troop the movie. Even Doug Walker, the nostalgia critic, said that in one of his, and I think his very first Disney December, he acknowledged that Goofy Movie was Goof Troop the movie. So when you even have someone like Doug Walker acknowledge that, you essentially know that it's all based in the same continuity. It's all based in the same universe. So I thought, honestly, I thought that, and I was hoping that they were going to create new episodes that were going to continue after a Goofy Movie. DuckTales, Disney did it. Disney did this with DuckTales. They did. Disney did this with DuckTales, the movie. After it came out, you had new episodes premiere in syndication, and I think on ABC, but mostly syndication, you had new episodes premiere. And the reason you knew they were all connected within the same continuity was because of the fact that in some of the episodes, even the final episodes of the series, Dijon showed up, voiced by the same actor from the movie, and Scrooge recognizes him from said movie. So I thought that was, watching that series at the time, I thought that was pretty cool to see that, not just to see that both the movie and the series were all within the same continuity and in the same universe, and that they weren't separate. So I figured, Disney would do that with Goof Troop. His Goofy Movie is basically Goof Troop the movie. Got the same original voice cast and characters, from the Goof Troop series. You got, of course, Goofy and Max. You got Pete and PJ. Again, like I said, voiced by the same voice actors and voice cast as in the series. And you introduce all these other new characters like Roxanne, Stacy, Bobby, Principal Mazer, and even the secretary, if you want to count her, Miss Marple. And you introduce all these other characters. You introduce all these other, background kind of could play minor, background could play minor parts or co-parts down the line as either friends and as allies, friends, antagonists, bullies to Max and his friends. So you had all this potential that you could advance forward into new episodes of Goof Troop based within the same continuity and universe as Goofy movie, because essentially you're acknowledging that it's all the same continuity. Because if you take a look at the timeline, Goof Troop came out in 1992, 93. So what, Max was 12, 11, 12 years old. Well, he was 11. He acknowledged that in the first episode. He said he was 11 and a half years old or something like that. So who's to say 3 years later he wouldn't be 14, 15 years old and at that age of being interested in girls like Roxanne? So the timelines coincide with each other. So getting back to what I was saying, watching the movie, thinking that this would be the best opportunity for them to do it, I was hoping every day I would tune in September to see new episodes. I was hoping for some kind of advertisement saying new episodes coming September. And then you may see some kind of visual of Roxanne in there, and Stacy in there, and Bobby, and everybody in the Goofy movie designs, but with the artistic background and stuff based off Goof Troop. And unfortunately that didn't happen, even though it made a lot of sense for it to happen. Even though it made a lot of sense for it to happen, it didn't. I mean, like I said, you take a look at when, time-wise, chronologically, time-wise, and continuity, timeline-wise, of when Goof Troop premiered and to the movie, and it makes sense. It works. And it just would have made more sense if they would have continued on with new episodes like they had done with DuckTales previously. But they didn't. I mean, the potential, when you think about a Jawbreaker, was there for them to take. Was for them to have, to obtain. Because when one looks at what they could have done, the interactions between the established Goof Troop characters and these new characters that could have been, they missed the boat. I mean, think about it. Wouldn't you like to see maybe a discussion, maybe some kind of at least one segment, or whatever, multiple segments, or multi-segments, if you will, or scenes, multi-scenes, segments, if you will, of Peg interacting with Roxanne, or maybe Peg interacting with both Stacy and Roxanne, or whatever. Wouldn't you have liked to see that? Wouldn't you have liked to see maybe an episode or two focused on Roxanne and Stacy? Like, let's say, do an episode to where, you could age Pistol up to where she's becoming a little bit more rebellious, but she still has to have somebody come over and watch her for a couple of hours while her parents are out on a date or out seeing a movie or whatever. And wouldn't you like to see an episode to where Roxanne and Stacy had to watch Pistol, had to watch her, try to get along with her, try to get to know her, and all that, try to maybe see what they could do as girls or whatever, potentially, try to bond and become to Pistol, maybe, and to Pistol become those big sisters you never had. Wouldn't you have liked to see that? The potential was there for character development, for Roxanne and Stacy, and even characters like Bobby, and so on. The potential to expand them into the world to expand and continue these characters into the Goof Troop television series with new episodes would have been great. It would have worked, and people would have enjoyed it. People would have loved seeing it. But it never happened. It never did happen. Now, with that said, the silver lining in many people's eyes might have been the fact that we did get Roxanne in the Goof Troop comics via Disney Magazine, or the Disney Adventures magazine. And yeah, that might have been a silver lining to see the Goof Troop title name there and seeing a character like Roxanne, in said story, that the connected, if you will, basically the same continuity. But even though they would do that, but here's the thing: even though they did that, which was great, nice silver lining there, for us fans of Goof Troop and the movie itself. My question is, if they could do it there, why couldn't they do it with the rest of with the actual animated series? And I think that's where you, Jawbreaker, are right about something. It's like, because they didn't do that, and because she only appeared as a bittersweet silver lining for fans in the Disney Adventure Magazine's Goof Troop comics, is what caused her to go into that category of being one and done for the time. And it just, to me, it just didn't make sense. I mean, you had the opportunity right there. Why not grasp for it? Why not take it? Now, I will admit that when House of Mouse, I used to watch House of Mouse every Saturday. I used to watch it. I loved the series, and even when I was working, I would record the series onto VHS best I could. Like I said, I would watch it every Saturday. It would come on to Disney Channel and Toon Disney, and I would watch it. I watched it as much as I could, and I did record most of the series onto VHS. Unfortunately, I left that VHS in Kansas, which is probably now, along with some other VHSs I left back there that I've recorded stuff on, probably now disintegrated. It's pretty much gone, as my dad once told me. Basically, long story short, when I moved back here to California, my dad took the boxes of VHS tapes I had packed away, put them in the upper rooms of the house he lived in at the time, and there they remained. I don't know if he took them with him or if he just left them there, but yeah, basically those VHSs, according to what he said, are probably one and done for, especially now that whoever owns the property pretty much probably boarded up the house, and if not, demolished the house and demolished the tapes with them. So anyway, like I was saying, and and I did try. However, I will give you a little thing. I did try to create a DVD, a recordable DVD of the series, which wasn't much of a follow through. So wasn't successful, but I did get some episodes onto DVD down the line. But getting back to what I'm saying, when I would watch House of Mouse, I remember, and I remember watching the episode when it came out on ABC, not Toon Disney, not Disney Channel, but ABC. I remember when it came out, and they're showing all these characters, all these various Disney classic characters on dates with each other, like. You had Jafar Maleficent. You had the Beast and Cruella. It's like, what's the theme here? Dates and everything. And then they focus to Max outside, and he's tightening himself up, getting himself all decent. I'm thinking they wouldn't, right? I'm thinking they wouldn't. And as soon as Lumiere comes out, mentions and acknowledges how it seems Max is getting ready for a saucy rendezvous, it's like, then you knew the more it was like they wouldn't, and the more of that question of they wouldn't, they're not going to, right? And as soon as Max says, "Oh yeah, my big date with Roxanne," and I'm thinking, holy crap, they're bringing Roxanne in. I mean, I was happy because this is what they should have done with Goof Troop. They should have brought her into the series of Goof Troop. This is what they did. This is what they should have done. And yes, it may have been, what was it, 7 years, 8 years, 9 years late, 9 years later. But with House of Mouse, when they did this, and they started kind of acknowledging, I'm thinking, what's going on here, kind of date thing. And I think I saw the title. I wasn't sure if I looked at in a TV guide or something, but something said Max's big date, and I'm thinking, what the heck? So again, it's like, I kept thinking to myself, no, they wouldn't do it. And when he acknowledges Roxanne, I'm thinking they're bringing her in. I was like, like any other fan, I was like, oh, thank you, finally. Because like I was saying, this is what they should have done in the first place, Jawbreaker. They should have had her do this with they should have done this with her with Goof Troop. They should have done this with her with Goof Troop. And I'm not talking the comics, I'm talking the animated series. But they didn't. And here's the thing. Just like with Goof Troop, where they had that potential right there to add her and the other characters to the series, to the animated series. They could have done the same with her here with House of Mouse. You could have done a follow-up episode with her coming back. You could have actually made her an addition to the House of Mouse staff, and off to the races you could have gone. But they didn't. Again, they missed out on set potential. It was just, it was just, it was just wrong, in my opinion. It was just wrong because you could have made up for your mistake. They could have made up for the mistake they made, for the opportunity they didn't take, with her being added on to the House of Mouse staff, her being a waitress, her being under tutelage of Daisy and Minnie, and even Clarabelle if you want to. You could have had her under that tutelage, but you didn't do it. When you did an extremely goofy movie, yeah, you have that one scene where you have these two girls watching Max and his friends skateboarding and all that, and one girl is like, I can't take it, she's looking at him, she's like, I can't take my eyes off him. A lot of people in Jawbreaker, I'm sure you've even acknowledged this, have said that girl with the short red hair, saying she can't take her eyes off Max, a lot of people would say that has to be Roxanne. Because almost the facial features, in a sense, almost match. Maybe the different colored eyes and all that. She could have cut her hair. So a lot of people probably felt that was an older Roxanne. And even with extremely goofy movie, you could have at least acknowledged, spent time having Max acknowledge that him and Roxanne, maybe they're not done, they're not broken up, they're just, off in separate colleges. Like Roxanne had to go out of state got a scholarship to go out of state to a different college, and Max can only afford to go in state, to this college, to the college that his dad ends up attending with him. So it's like the potential to even acknowledge Roxanne's existence in the sequel was there, but they didn't even do that. And then you get to 2004, and you get Mona. Now, nothing against Mona. I think she's a great character, even for the short time we had with her in Mickey's Tries Upon a Christmas, in the short Christmas Maximus. But to me, it's like, why? I mean, again, nothing against Mona. Potentially, she could have been a great character. Heck, they show at the end of the episode that the reason she was attracted to Max and all that, she has the same situation as Max and Goofy. She has goofy teeth. Even though she's attractive and everything on the outside, she has goofy teeth. And you're thinking, why couldn't that be Roxanne? Why couldn't they bring Roxanne back for that? I mean, yeah, I understand that in 2004, they were just starting out with the CGI, okay? And doing the computer animation for the movies and the shows and all that. I understand that. I get that. But it's like, why couldn't you do a follow-through with Roxanne? Why couldn't you bring her in? Why couldn't you, as Jawbreaker, you mentioned, just short her hair a little bit? Say she cut it while she was in college. Why couldn't you do that? I don't know. Some people speculate, in Jawbreaker you mentioned it, that young love doesn't always last long, and that's probably true. And some people also speculate that that the reason we got Mona, if you want to look at it from a realistic standpoint, is when it comes to a relationship being separated by distance, that sometimes one of the separators that are part of that, or separatees, or whatever you want to call it, that are part of that, end up finding somebody else. And they end up either letting the other know by Dear John or Dear Jane letter or email, or they let them know in person when they meet up with them. It's like it's like you had, it's like basically realistic. It's basically like from a realistic standpoint, that's how a lot of people look at the reason as to why Mona came in. That because of the distance that separated both Max and Roxanne, that even though they tried and tried, then maybe they both mutually agreed that if they're gonna, that it's better for them to remain friends, and go on and meet other people because it's hard for them to try to stay connected. That's what I'm thinking. It could have been a mutual separation, like I said. They could have both acknowledged, look, Roxanne could have been like, look, I attend school 15, 20, 1500, 1800, 2000 mile, 2000 miles away. I want to be with you, Max, but it's kind of hard because I can't keep coming back and forth. Financially, I can't keep coming back and forth to be with you. And Max could have agreed the same thing. Maybe they worked something out to where they tried to go back and forth and see each other in their different locations, but financially, from a realistic standpoint, they couldn't really do it anymore, or they couldn't keep doing it. So maybe they acknowledged that maybe it's best just to break off the relationship and remain friends. From a realistic standpoint, that makes sense as to why Mona was introduced. Then again, you go back to the whole Dear John, Dear Jane letter, and depending on who you would point fault to for that potentially being a reasoning, that's a realistic option too. Because I remember, because here's the thing: if you watch Linkara's History of Power Rangers, and he starts talking about Power Rangers Zeo, I don't know if it's in the second part or first part of his History of Power Rangers Zeo, but Linkara talks about the episode, or the 3-part episode called There's No Business Like Snow Business, and how right at the beginning of that, you have Kimberly mail a letter. You had basically Tommy receive a letter from Kimberly, the original Pink Ranger, but it's not just any letter, it's a Dear John letter, basically acknowledging that she had met somebody while she was away, doing the Pan Am Games or whatever, that she was away. When she was away training for the Pan Am Games or in the Pan Am Games, she had met somebody. And, the and what's funny is the reaction by Linkara when he did this review, and he did this review originally as well as redid it later on, is the same reaction a lot of people have about the whole Roxanne Max, the whole Max with Mona deal, and like where's Roxanne kind of situation. It's like, what the hell? It's like, why go in this direction? Why do this? And to me, I do agree. It's like, why? And it's off screen, even though the credits said guest starring Amy Jo Johnson. Oh yeah, Amy Jo Johnson was in there, but she was only in there in flashback. She wasn't in there physically. So, and it's off screen. So basically, that's how a lot. And so basically, like I said, to quote what Linkara said, when he said basically in his review of his History of Power Rangers Zeo Part 1, he said, what the hell? That's basically how a lot of fans felt about Roxanne and Max, and how Mona came in as the new love interest. It's like, what the hell? What happened? Because we don't see any like references or anything like that, or we don't get any explanation from the writers or the creators or anything, involved with the whole goofy deal. We don't get any of those, any kind of like acknowledgement of, oh well, Max and Roxanne broke up, and now Mona came in to comfort them, and now they're a couple. And it's like, seriously, it's like, is that your reasoning? Is that why Roxanne's not around? But no, we didn't get an explanation. All we got was, here's Mona, and that's it. So a lot of speculation could be, like I said, Jawbreaker, like many people have speculated, off panel, it could have been a Dear John, a Dear Jane letter from either one, if not both. You know, it could have been a mutual breakup because they're so far apart from each other. It's like, why? It's like, basically, it's like, what the hell? What happened? So, again, I can understand where you're coming from. And like I said earlier, nothing against Mona. Mona, I thought, was potentially a good character. Could have been a great character. It seemed like she's the kind of character that, and I use this example all the time, that had they brought her into a new Goofy series and all that, and let's say and Max kisses her, she could have been the kind that is, let's say Max kisses her fully on the lips in another cartoon, that she could melt right into a puddle right at his feet, with her face just sticking up with her eyes half closed, and it's with her smiling face looking up at him with her eyes halfway closed, and it's like, because she's a happy little, she's melted into a little puddle, happy little puddle, and it's like, why couldn't you? It's like, she had that kind of potential, but again, just like with Roxanne, just like with with Sylvia, an extremely goofy movie, just like all these other female characters, from Debbie, from PJ's love interest, believe it or not, in Goof Troop, and in an extremely goofy movie, to the Pagan Pistol themselves. It's like, what happened? Why is this trend keep going on? I mean, the only constant love interest, when you think about it, surrounding Goofy or anybody Goofy related, the only constant love interest that Goofy ever had is Clarabelle. And it's like, really? And the only reason I think she would be the only constant love interest and girlfriend for Goofy or anybody Goofy related is because she's the equivalent of Goofy. Basically, she's basically statuesque. She's tall, statuesque, a little clumsy, but yet she's basically Goofy's opposite in a way, because you have Mickey with Minnie, you have Daisy with Donald, you have Donald with Daisy, and now you have to give Goofy somebody, and Goofy gets Clarabelle. So, what, are they supposed to create a female version to be the equivalent of Max? They had that with Roxanne. But honestly, again, I get what you're getting at. I get what you're saying, Jawbreaker. And it's like, I think the thing is with Disney is this trend of these one-offs of female Goofy characters, love interest for not just Goofy and his son Max, but for other characters like PJ and all that. I think these one-off female love interests, the trend started not just in Goof Troop, continued on. But for Roxanne, I think this trend started not with Goof Troop, not with Goofy Movie, and because she was still around in the Goof Troop comics. But this trend basically really to me started when they didn't add Roxanne, Stacy, or any of the other new Goofy Movie characters into newer episodes of Goof Troop that stayed within the same continuity as Goofy Movie. Because it's all, think about it, it's all one, like I said earlier, it was all one big continuity deal. But they didn't keep her, but because they didn't do that, we didn't get Roxanne, and until, in animation form, we didn't get Roxanne until House of Mouse Max's big date. 7 years later. I mean, yeah, like I said, the bittersweet silver lining, she was in the Disney Adventure Goof Troop comics. Okay, fine. But animation-wise, we didn't get her back until, like I say, 7 years later. And they could have done it a lot sooner had they followed through on that potential they had. That potential opportunity to do new episodes for Goof Troop based after Goofy Movie, just like they had done with DuckTales. But what are you going to do? So that's just my response to you, Jawbreaker. This is about a half hour, so I do apologize. Hopefully you've taken your time and listened to it. But that's just my response to the the Roxanne and Mona Gone with the Fur Theater video that Jawbreaker did. And I will talk to y'all later. God bless. Take care.